Broad Street Review Podcast, Philly's online hub for arts, culture, and commentary, where art and ideas meet. I am your host, Darnell Radford. Today on the podcast, I meet with Sarah Stolfa, President, Chief Executive Officer, and Artistic Director of Philadelphia Photo Arts Center, celebrating 10 years in service. Here is my interview with Sarah Stolfa. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Darnell Radford, and today I am in one of the Rep Radio studios here in Philadelphia, and I am sitting across the table from Sarah Stolfa, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer and Artistic Director of the Philadelphia Photo Arts Center. Now, I had a great opportunity to engage with one of the artists who was on exhibition earlier this season, Rashad Newsom. If you listened to that interview, if you didn't, go back and listen. It was a great interview, and there's information on the website, and we'll talk more about that. But we're here to talk about Sarah. So, Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
And it's great to have you. So tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I'm the founding CEO of the Philadelphia Photo Arts Center. Like, we don't want to say the full name. Sometimes we call ourselves PPAC. And I'm really an artist that happened to start a nonprofit art center 10, 11 years ago. And so I've lived in Philadelphia for, I don't know, maybe almost 25 years. And at one point, my career before the arts, the visual arts, I was in a punk rock band. Wow. And so we hailed from Washington, D.C., but through a change of members, we moved to Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And to offset my income from the band, I started working at a very true and tried bar in Philadelphia called McGlinchey's, which is in Center City. And during my time working there, I finally left the band and decided to go back to school, college, for photography. Mm-hmm. And I ended up completing my undergraduate work at Drexel, and during that time I made a body of work called The Regulars. And so it was a series of very formal, it's interesting, very formal portraits of singular figures kind of emerging from this darkness of regulars that would come into the bar. And it was really about kind of this social mask, or this presentation that people were trying to make in this very public space, even though they were in the space by themselves. And so there was a kind of emotional conflict between, feeling comfortable in their own skin, but also feeling very vulnerable for being alone. Yeah. And so with that body of work, and I was able to make that work because I had worked at McGlinchey's for, I don't know how long my tenure was there, but it might have been close to 10 years. And with that body of work, I completed my studies at Drexel, continued to make the work, and then applied for graduate school. I was accepted to graduate school, so I left Philadelphia to do my MFA at the Yale School of Art. And while I was there, I was considering where I was going to land after I finished my master's degree. And I was kind of thinking about, if there was ever going to be a time for me to try out New York, this was going to be the time to do it. And so at that time, I was represented by a gallery here in town called Gallery 339. Mm-hmm. And I met with them, the owners of the gallery, about my work. And also, we started talking about what I was going to do after school. And when I mentioned that I was considering moving to New York, they seemed very disheartened. Oh. Part of it, I'd like to say it was because of me, but I think a lot of it had to do with this idea that artists couldn't live in Philadelphia, that artists felt the need to go to New York to be able to be a successful artist. And so we started having this conversation about why I would go to New York. And New York and other cities, in Houston, in San Francisco, even in Chicago, there's this kind of model of a photography center that ends up having resources for artists to make work, as well as exhibitions and programmings and educational opportunities. So in this conversation, they're like, well, do you think you could do something about that in Philadelphia so that Philadelphia artists have access to that type of resource? And I said, sure, yeah, I can come up with something. And so then my last semester at Yale, I completed my thesis and created a business plan for what would become the Philadelphia Photo Art Center. They bought into it and believed in the vision and helped us open our doors about 15 months later. So I moved back to Philadelphia in May of 2008, and we opened our doors in August of 2009. Wow. So yeah, it was a pretty quick turnaround, and we're really, I was a generation of artists, and many artists still have practice like me, where we were taught in analog or in a darkroom practice of photography, but then as technology changed, we also adapted digital practices.
Yeah.
And so once you're out of the university system, there's really nowhere for you to gain access to that equipment.
True.
That's if you even go into the university system. Many artists never enter into that system. And so in order to buy that printer, which costs $8,000, and the ink, which costs $2,000, plus the computer and the software, it gets a very costly enterprise. So PPAC really started with this idea of being an open lab where people can come in and use the equipment to make their work at a very affordable rate. But if people are gonna come in and use the equipment, what if they don't know how to use the equipment? So we had to have an educational department in terms of that. And if we're going to be making work, shouldn't we be exhibiting work? And if we're exhibiting work, shouldn't we be having programs and talks about the work? And so the idea for PPAC just grew.
Wow.
And so the mission of PPAC is we're dedicated to contemporary photography through the study, practice, and appreciation of it. And we're very rooted in an artist-focused practice that's rooted in Philadelphia.
Wow. That's exciting. And there's, it's like you sort of have this overwhelming amount of byproducts that came from your original idea. Just providing resource, and then education came along with it.
Yeah, a lot of things came along with it. When we started, we're still in our original location. So we're located at the Crane Arts Building. That's at 1400 North American Street, so right in South Kensington, at Master and American Street. And when we started, our lab, our classroom space, and our gallery was all in what is now our gallery. So we were 1,800 square feet. And, at our leanest, it was me and a part-time person, and we just did everything. And it just, one of our very first programs that we started was our after-school program called Teen Photo. And, I was sitting around at work one day, and there's periods in the day when there would be no one using the equipment. Mm-hmm. I was like, how can we have all this wonderful equipment? We should open it up to an after-school program and see if we can, get youth involved. Because when I was at the Yale University when I was at Yale, I worked at the Yale University Art Gallery, and I was a public education for K through 12. So we had students from all over New Haven come in and would do a lesson based on history or the elements of art, just looking at 3 pieces of work and like talking about that, unpacking that work. And so education to youth became very important to me and part of my thinking. And it became very important, and part of my thinking is because before Yale, I never really thought about access to the arts. And just because something is free doesn't mean it's accessible.
Yeah. And
just because it's free and there doesn't mean that you're being invited in. Mm-hmm. And the gallery funded every 3rd grade class in the city of New Haven to come to the gallery twice. And from the first time they came in to the second time they came in, it's like they owned the place the second time they came in. Like they remembered the teachers, yeah. They knew where their jackets went, they would walk through the gallery and remember a painting, and that was just their second visit. And it never felt like a place for them until they were actually brought there. So it's really the role of, I'm going on a whole nother tangent, but it's really the role of arts organizations, and PPAC at its core believes that it's not enough just to be free and open. You have to meet people wherever they are, yeah. In terms of, their culture, their understanding of art, because all of us are creative. All of us can be creative. All of us can understand art. we're just not always invited in. So it's really our role to meet people where they are and have a conversation at that space, right? And so the teen photo program was just like, it was kind of a no-brainer because we had all the equipment. We started working with Kensington Kappa, which was really close to PPAC. In our first year or two, we worked slowly with that high school, and then we opened it up. So yeah, I mean, all the programming that, the byproducts of the resources for artists has really stemmed out into all of our core programming. And teen photo is actually one of our longest ones.
Wow. And it's exciting that, it was the earlier offering, and it's still running strong.
Yeah, it's running stronger than it ever has. I mean, yeah, we started teen photo in January of 2010. When we started it, it was only one semester of the school year. Now it's in the entire school year because we really believe in authentic and impactful engagement. So it's really hard to that takes time to to develop a community and to learn and be comfortable with a new way of communicating about what you see and what you think, because photography is its own language. So coming in and learning, you can't come in and learn photography in 4 weeks and walk out with something that's gonna somehow change how you think and feel or a new way for you to express. So we've always been very dedicated to teen photo being a long program. So it's the entire school year. I mean, I think at our leanest, we were struggling to retain 10 students in the program. Now we have 70 every year for the entire school year. We start with about 100 applicants, and through just kind of more conversations and saying, if you're gonna be in it, all we ask is you show up. You gotta show up. If you're not gonna show up, you're taking the spot from somebody else. So just show up. And we usually end up with around 70 to 65 students per year.
Wow.
And so it's a really great program. The students come from all over the city, about probably 26 different schools. They get themselves there. They're dedicated. They're smart. They're creative. They're hardworking. They come for 2 hours a week for their class session, but then they're allowed to use PPAC whenever they want. And they get a camera for the entire year to use.
Wow.
Yeah. So they all have DSLR cameras. We just ask they return them at the end of the program. And we have students that keep coming back. We're never going to say no to a student, you've already done this, you can't come back. Yeah. So, I mean, we've had students that have been with us for their whole high school career.
If you go out on social media, particularly YouTube, there is a continuous argument over which camera is the best, back and forth. Is there a specific camera that PPAC prefers?
So I'm really not the tech person at PPAC, but for our teen photo program, we use the Canon Rebel Ti-7s. Okay. Because it's a really good starter camera. Yeah. It's not extremely expensive. It's not extremely complicated to use. So that's the camera of choice for our teen photo program.
Yeah. I started with I had cameras before, but my first DSLR was a Canon T3i.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and when I was working at the fruit-themed computer company, that was the encouraged one to start with.
Yeah, the Rebel is a good camera because, like I said, it's not too expensive for the entire kit with the lens and the body and everything, and it's not overly complicated to start to learn. We make our students shoot on manual so that they really understand, the fundamentals and how
That's going to be one of my questions.
Yeah. They shoot in RAW and they shoot manual. Because we really want them to understand the foundation of photography, because once you understand the technical part of it, you can pre-visualize what you want your image to look like, and it's more of an enterprise than just, snapping a button. It is more of an enterprise than just snapping a button regardless. But we want them to be able to know and have control and make decisions and not do something because they don't know how. So I think that's really important. I liken it to a lot of our cell phones. I don't know people's phone numbers anymore because I don't actually dial them, right? I just hit their name. And it's if you don't go through that motion of learning something and laboring through it, it's hard to retain it. And like, you know, not only know it and retain it, but also like just it becomes part of you instinctually. Like, you know, when you take a picture, to look at the settings of your camera and change according to what you want your image to look like, not based on what the camera wants you to do.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on sort of the social aspect of photography now, particularly with like Instagram?
I think it's great. I mean, I as an art center dedicated to one medium, and we try to work very hard to have a very expanded idea of what that medium is. So we do show artists that are multidisciplinary or peripherally use photography. But I think that, you know, it's a great opportunity for everybody to be involved in the practice and to have the ability to visually record their voice or experience without, it's a very democratic medium, right?
Yeah,
I mean, if you have any sort of smartphone, you can be taking pictures and putting it out there in the world. I think it's really amazing. One of the things that I think so important, I think in terms of just in general in the culture that I think we're lacking, but especially what we talk about a lot in terms of our youth programming is visual literacy. And so the power of a photograph is extremely powerful.
Yeah.
And a photograph has done great good in the world, and it has done great harm in the world.
Yeah.
And so photography is a real tool, and it always has been for political, social, racial, just all those. It's been a power for good and for bad. And so one thing that we really want to communicate to our youth is that the power of their voice visually in a photograph. And so that they can understand when they're being delivered photographs through the media or through Instagram, that they can dissect it and understand what that photograph is communicating to them, and they can say what they want to say through a photograph. So I think visual literacy isn't taught enough in the world, especially right now in this moment when we're engulfed with photographs. Like, we're pummeled with photographs all day long, and it's like I don't think we have a understanding all the time. I don't think everyone has an understanding on how to read them.
Yeah.
So but I think it's crucially important for people, especially our youth, to know how to read imagery.
I think what is kind of interesting is, you know, in the digital space on a smartphone or any piece of technology you own, there are thousands of photographs there that, you know, if that device is compromised in any way, it sends people into emotional spaces where they're like, I don't know what I would do if I lost all of those images.
Right.
But at the same time, what we kind of pulled away from was like the tradition of like having an album, actually getting them printed and making choices of like, you know, I took 40 of this of this image, but there were only 3 of them that I loved.
Right.
And I, you know, took them out and put them into a collection because these were the ones I want to keep.
Right.
It is just kind of interesting to see that how, you know, you may not actually call yourself a photographer, but you take photos every day.
Everyone's involved in photography these days. Yeah, I mean, the thing that you're talking about, and not a victim. I'm subject to it too. Is that, you know, I take personal photographs, and they live on my phone. They might live on the cloud. They'll live on a computer if I'm lucky, if I get them to that space. And I just think about what's going to happen 50 years from now, in terms of that collective photographic memory of, you know, the snapshot. So how is that going to live? Like right now, I have a box of my dad's photographs actually that I need to start scanning. And that's really fun to go through them and see the physical photograph.
Yeah.
But what happens when my kids are, you know, in their 50s and, you know, the technology, are they going to even be able to read those devices anymore?
Yeah.
You know, I think it's an issue I think it's a cultural phenomenon that I don't know how it's going to pan out.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it now. It's like, the shelf life of a hard drive is not very long. So
No.
you do have to think about, you might have this large hard drive at home or, in a safe space where you keep things, or maybe you have it up in the cloud, but the cloud has all this redundancy to protect all these things. But at home, you might just have one hard drive, and that may have been everything. Because many times when my hard drives have failed, I'm just sitting there thinking, that was my entire photo library.
Yeah. So if you decide that you want to go old school and get an actual printed photograph,
Yeah.
PPAC is definitely a place where you can do that. You can come in and use our lab and make photographs, and that was one of the reasons why we were founded, as well as we do printing for clients as well. So, we believe very much in the photographic object.
Yeah.
Digital imagery is great, but we're dedicated to exhibitions and the physicality of an artwork. And so, come get your pictures printed with us.
Definitely. So I became a member of PPAC.
Thank you very
today.
much. Oh, you did? Thank you
Yes.
for being a member.
It was a new decade. I was thinking about these things I want to do. I always said in a perfect world, I would take a few months to focus on all of the creative efforts that I want to focus on, like just do a deep dive in here so that I can lay a solid foundation and then move on to something else with that solid foundation intact.
Yeah.
So that was part of my plan this year. I got a new camera.
Oh, very cool.
I upgraded an EOS R.
Okay.
And so I was thinking about, I was like, I gotta get a community because I am very much involved in our theater community.
Right.
But I love branching out into dance and media and other forms of art because we're in a great space to have that.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Especially now being aware of PPAC, I was like, yes, what else can I get from there?
Yeah. I mean, you can get tons from PPAC. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like classes or learning photography, we have a huge range of classes from very basic to how to use your camera to, the history of photography or to thinking about printing on alternative papers and mediums. And then we always have our exhibitions and our openings, which are always free and open to the public.
Yeah.
We have events programmed with all of our exhibitions. We usually have talks or panel discussions. And so it's a real time to kind of meet people that are within the photography community.
Yeah.
And the photography community is so diverse that there's so many, it's like expansive. It's just, you could come to a show one time at PPAC and you could come to a show the next opening and see a totally different, community of people there.
Yeah.
But we have our dedicated, supporters and artists who have been with us since the beginning. And so it's really wonderful to see not only each other, but then also see the fruits of everyone's labor as they, have new accomplishments through their creativity.
I love that you came from the punk community. It made me think about when South Street was South Street.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I hung out on South Street too much when South Street was South Street, but I do think that my punk rock aesthetic, especially coming from Washington D.C., which was, part of the positive force movement when I was there and the Riot Girl movement when I was there, and we would put shows together and hold them in churches and raise money for different social causes. And I didn't know how to play an instrument. I mean, the first band we started, I think I got the guitar for $25. I painted it with acrylic paint red, and we were called the Sirens. But it was this idea that you could do anything. It was a DIY mentality, and you didn't have to do anything alone, right? And so I think that mentality that I had, that was that mentality that was really nurtured and fostered when in that punk rock community in DC really translated to opening PPAC, because I never thought for a second it wouldn't work. I never thought for a second I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I never thought for a second that I would do it alone. And so it's just been really, and I feel like the thing that I love about Philadelphia is it feels like a city where you can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many, like, across disciplines, there's so many spaces that are like that. It's just, I think it's one of the things I really love about Philadelphia is that it's small enough and friendly enough and supportive enough and affordable enough that if you want to build something, you can do it.
Yeah, it's that saying, "Leap and the net will follow."
Yeah.
Is very prevalent here.
Yes.
Quite often when you go to an event or you talk to somebody and they ask, what you do, or there's some sort of exchange about what you're passionate about, their gears start grinding. They immediately start thinking about how we can work together. How can we collaborate on something? Like, oh, you do what? Oh my God, I love that. And then you're just like, wait a minute. Hey, maybe we can work on something together. We start thinking about how you need things. I remember starting my theater company. I put an email out on the listserv saying we were looking for a photographer to capture behind the scenes of the show and give us some press photos. And I got an email from a friend, he's still a friend, who said, I am in no way a professional photographer, but we just bought a camera so we could work on our headshots, and I would love the experience of just coming in and capturing your world. So.
Right.
He ended up being our photographer for several shows, and I thought that was such a great thing that I just put out there, say, looking for a photographer, and built that relationship. That was really great.
Yeah, I mean, it's we did a project last spring. Well, it started in the fall, but then it went through the spring, and it's still continuing now, but it's called the Women's Mobile Museum. Mm-hmm. And so we worked with activist and artist Zanele Moholi, who's from South Africa, asking them to come to do a residency in Philadelphia. And their response was that they didn't need that opportunity, that they had been so, their career had been in a space where more opportunities within the art world were presenting themselves. Mm-hmm. But they said, if we do it, I'll come to Philadelphia, but we have to create an internship for 10 other women to learn photography. And so, who haven't had access to arts education predominantly because of economic barriers, right?
Yeah.
And so we developed a call for a paid internship for 10 Philadelphia women to have a studio in our building, learn photography, and then Moholi came to Philadelphia for 6 weeks, worked with each of the artists. We developed a community exhibition, which went to North Philadelphia, South Philadelphia, then PPAC, and now it's on tour. It's in Iowa, it's going to DC, it's going to Johannesburg in May.
Wow.
And I just remember when we were talking about it, Lori Wazelchuk is our exhibitions and programs coordinator at PPAC. Mm-hmm. We were talking about it, and sometimes we're very different. She's like, we're going to get tons of people. And I'm like, we're not going to get nobody. Or vice versa. We're never on the same page. But for this, I was like, I don't know how we're going to even recruit 10 women for this. I don't know how we can do that. And Lori reached out to other community centers. 60 women applied, which was heartbreaking because we could only pick 10. But this idea that, like, I don't know who PPAC is. I may or may not know who the artist Zanele Moholi is. I don't know what I'm signing up for exactly except for a paid art internship, but I really want it.
Yeah.
And so that, what you're talking about, that like openness to do something new and try something different because your creative, spirit drives you to do it, is very real.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. So it's exciting to hear that it's transcendent across disciplines.
Yeah, definitely. I want to talk about some of the programming at PPAC. One in particular is called Oh Snap. Mm-hmm. And can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, Oh Snap. So we started a project, 2016, that was really
That's a brilliant title, by the way.
It is, and that's why I'm telling you where it came from.
If you don't have T-shirts made by now,
we don't, but
make T-shirts.
But we will. You're right. So, we started this project in about 2016. That was really about us engaging with our neighbors because we realized we had been in the neighborhood for maybe 6 years at that point, but no one from the neighborhood was actually coming to PPAC.
Yeah.
And there's lots of reasons why, but that whole idea of like, well, we're free and we're here, just come in.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, wait a minute, that's not how this really works.
Yeah.
This isn't how it works. So we developed this project, which I won't go into all of it, but one of the residents in the neighborhood who was a block captain a few blocks away from PPAC, Carmen, got involved in the project. And I remember we were having a conversation, Lori, her and I, and she was like, I don't know who came up with the idea of a women's photography group, but she's like, oh yeah, and you should call it Oh Snap. So it's a monthly photography club group for anyone that identifies as a woman to come and to a space to talk about photography. They do workshops. We have critiques. We have women artists coming and talking about their work. So it's created kind of a really an open and very free space for women to talk about their creative practice in this discipline.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think why that is really important is because, I mean, the art world in general, but photography is no different, is that it has been predominantly a male-occupied space.
Yeah.
And so, you mean, I might get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyways. 10 years ago, if you look at all the, tenured faculty at universities across the nation that were teaching photography, it was all men.
Mm-hmm.
And so, over time, students going through, it's predominantly women now that are going through photography departments.
Yeah.
And so it was just important to create a space where women could have, a place to talk. So, so that's OSNAP.
Yeah. And it's International Women's Month, right? Or Day.
I'm
there
not
was a
sure.
Day?
I can't remember what day it is. It's Tuesday, right?
Yeah, it was like International Women's Day was, I think, yesterday. And then I saw something else that was International Women's Month. But I think there are organizations who are focusing on the day all month.
Okay.
So let's just say it's International Women's Month.
Okay, cool.
Because it's all about women.
Yeah, I don't know. I do know that at PPAC we try really hard. Something that's very important to us is that we're a local resource for the local community in terms of our artists and our youth that we're working with. But we don't want to just have a local conversation. We want to have international and national dialogue. Yeah. And so bringing Moholi to Philadelphia for this residency was a really important thing, to have a conversation, especially women of color. And the whole project was really about who is art for, who's represented in art, who has art spaces, who has access to art spaces. For that conversation, not just to be a national one, but it ended up being an international one. And I have to say, every day is International Women's Day at my house. So we have this really great book called, what's it called? Rebel Girl, 100 stories of different women. And so it's one-page biography of different women for youth. And my children are small, so we read 2 a day.
Ooh.
And so we're learning about young and old and activists and international and national. So, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's fun.
So it's Women's History Month.
Yes.
Yeah. So equally as important.
Yeah. Yeah, which is, it's fantastic.
Yes.
Especially, arts organizations are women have a very large role in arts organizations. At PPAC, I think we're like 88% women on the staff. Just that's how it worked out. But yeah, women play an important role.
Well, that's great. So there's a couple of things that you have coming up. There's a couple of events. There's a new initiative, Fine Arts Services. I've been given a bunch of bullet points to kind of point
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Let me weed through it because I know exactly what's going on at PPAC right now.
Tell me about the fine arts services at PPAC.
So we recently, like I said, when we started, we were 1,800 square feet. We just expanded recently. Now we're 8,000 square feet. So we've taken the whole south tip of our building. And part of that initiative was so that we could add another classroom. So we have more classes and workshop offerings running at a time. But also, we've always done printing, fine art printing for clients. But there's nowhere in the city where you can get it printed and then mounted and then framed in the same space. So we just launched that. So that's our fine art services.
Great.
So we do framing and mounting, which is a type of finishing. So that's a new initiative. Our exhibition that's opening next week is a celebration of our teen photo program that's 10 years, and so it's an alumni show. It's about 25 artists that are in the exhibition.
That's awesome.
It's really amazing, and it's really amazing to see some of the artists. I mean, the students that come into teen photo, we believe in creativity and the benefit of creativity and our own voices and having the tools to say our voices in whatever medium we want to say them in. And we really believe in visual literacy. Are we trying to pump out 70 fine art photographers every year? Not necessarily. But some of them become very invested in the medium as an artistic practice. And so, we have alumni that in the show that, they are living and working as creative professionals, making their work and working within arts institutions. And we're excited that they're going to have an exhibition, be part of an exhibition at PPAC.
Do you know the makeup of the alumni that are still here in Philadelphia, or have they branched out and they're all over?
I think they're kind of all over. I mean,
each way is still good because they are representing Philadelphia.
And they're also coming back to Philadelphia, like at times. I don't have the numbers. I'm sorry, but I do know
we'll point
anecdotally.
To it all on the website.
Yeah, I do know anecdotally. We have some that have left, some that have stayed, some that have left and come back, or they've gone to university and then come back to Philadelphia. So it's a range.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you because in your role as president and chief executive officer and artistic director, how much do you still get time to hone your craft? Do you still get time to be an artist?
Oh.
Or are you so focused on running the place?
I mean, I've done a lot of hard thinking about this over the years, and PPAC's 10. My son is 9. My daughter's 7. I teach at the University of Pennsylvania, and then I run PPAC, and so I've really thought about how my practice as a creative person has moved from picture making in terms of photography to running PPAC. And so PPAC is very much run, I think of it as my artistic practice in a lot of ways. And that's why the artistic director part of my title is my favorite part. It's because, working with curators and artists and my team at PPAC to design programs that are, they're such buzz terms, but new and innovative and thinking about other ways to do things and other ways to talk about issues and other ways to present work, really fulfills me in terms of my work. My basic CEO responsibilities of signing checks or whatever else that I do, that's the CEO part. It's the artistic director part that, keeps me satisfied and fulfilled.
I feel like you can ask any artistic director in Philadelphia, anywhere, they would say, it's when they get to engage with the work and the people making the work that's the most rewarding part of it.
Oh, completely.
I don't think anybody's like, what I want to do, bookkeeping. I mean, someone out there is a bookkeeper.
People totally, and people like me, especially our artist types, I need the bookkeepers of the world.
Yes.
You don't want me touching anyone's books. So there's a place for everyone, and I think that at PPAC we are an artist-focused institution, and not only are we working with artists and hiring artists to teach our classes and hiring our teen alumni to be the teaching TAs for our classes or doing the photo in schools. Most of the staff, all of the programmatic staff at PPAC are artists. And so for us, that's a really important, it's just a really important attribute because we look at what we do as artists and as an artistic practice.
Yeah.
Not as just running a nonprofit space, right? That's a very important thing for us. And we hold on to it dearly.
And you've got an event called Envision.
Oh, Envision.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, Envision is our, we every year we've had over the last 2 years, we've had a kind of a celebration event to celebrate PPAC, programs at PPAC, the work that we've done collectively together. It's also a fundraiser to help with all of our core programs. And we decided to really kind of step it up a notch on our 10th year. And so it's on April 30th. It will be an auction and dinner and gala. It's going to be at the new Comcast CTC building. It has a name now. It's called Envision to really reflect not only the visioning that we've done in the past 10 years, but thinking about our vision for the next 10 years. And, I still hold this true. I remember the first opening we had at PPAC, I said, I don't know what photography is going to look like in 20 to 25 years, but I know that PPAC is going to be a resource for contemporary artists at that time. Yeah. That we will stay relevant and innovative to the needs of what artists need to continue their practice. And so Envision is really about thinking about, who we are now at 10 years and who we're going to be 10 years from today. Yeah.
But just try to keep people away from those windows on the 27th floor.
I know, it's going to be hard. It's a beautiful view.
Can I have your attention? Okay, 5 more minutes.
Yeah, well, it's not only on the 27th floor, it's at that floor. The windows are actually 2 stories.
Yes.
So it's 27th and 28th, and it looks out onto City Hall. So it's a really beautiful view,
yeah, it is.
And I think it's going to be just a really great celebration where we're honoring 2 really important people to not only me myself personally, but also to the organization is one of our founding trustees, Stuart Rome. He was a photographer and artist that taught at Drexel. He was really my mentor there. We're honoring him, as well as Lynn Honigman, who is a photography advocate and activist that has really pioneered the celebration of photography in this region. And, nationally, internationally. And both of them have been dear mentors and supporters of PPAC. So we're really excited to celebrate and honor them on this 10th year of our life.
That's great. Any advice for the photographers out there listening? It would be a missed opportunity if I didn't say.
I wish I had more. No, I do have more.
And notice I didn't say aspiring. If you have an interest in photography, you're a photographer. If you have a camera, you're a photographer. If you take photos, you're a photographer.
If you say you're something, you're something.
Yes.
Because the world is going to try to tell you that you're not. But if you state who you are and make the world believe you. So if you're a photographer and you're an artist, then you live it.
Yeah.
And so, I guess, and I'm trying to think the most general, but I just think that in my experience with PPAC and as an artist and, building something from nothing, none of it could have happened without the power of community. And being humble enough, actually I was just telling this to my son this morning, being humble enough to know what you don't know, and humble enough to ask for help. Because you can't figure out, there's no way one of us can do all of whatever it is we're going to do. So we need partners, we need collaborators, we need people with other skill sets. So instead of trying to plow through your life alone, build a community, because that community, you can't do anything without it. You really can't.
That sounds like good advice for a little pocket of space here on the East Coast. I don't even have to say you know exactly what I mean. To just heed that sage advice.
Yeah, I mean, and this, the other thing that I've just, what I've also really learned in the last 10 years at PPAC is to be quiet and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And so listening to other people's truths and other people's view on things will completely change how you see things as well.
Yeah.
So
That
humbleness and listening.
Very valuable lesson for me as a host was listening. There were many times I've walked in with so many questions, and once I got comfortable with it, I just started listening to what was being said and had much more engaging conversations, just like this one.
Yeah.
So Sarah Stolva, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me and to tell us a little bit more about Philadelphia Photo Arts Center.
Thank you. I really love the conversation, and I really appreciate your support. And I invite you and everybody else to come visit PPAC.
Yeah. So I hope I'm almost certain that this will not be the last conversation I have about the Philadelphia Photo Arts Center. But if you want to know more about it, you can go to philaphotoarts.org, and you can also visit. They're at 1400 North American Street in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That's the Kensington area.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they're pretty much, they keep normal hours, 10 to 6 pretty much, that they'll be there. And there's tons of information on the website about how you can engage with them and learn more about photography and be part of this community. So Sarah, thank you so much for coming in and chatting with me today. It was truly a pleasure.
Same with me. Thank you.
Head on over to our website at www.broadstreetreview.com and click Get Involved at the top. While you're there, help keep us running and click Contribute to find out how. Connect with us on social media, on Facebook and Twitter at Broad Street Review. Thank you for helping to keep the conversation going.